Welcome, everybody, to another live stream on the Mystery Witch School YouTube channel. Today, we are talking about how Hekate teaches you about letting go, and so that you can step into more of who you are actually becoming. So, welcome to the live stream, everybody. We're also going to be talking a little bit on tarot as well, because I have a special offer this month of November for the Journey with Hekate course and also tarot as well. So I'll talk a bit more about that as we progress through the live and as we wait for people to come online as well. So if you are online, say hello in the chat. Hello, Art for Joy. And welcome to those of you watching the replay as well. It's great to also hear you comment on the replay too and still ask questions on the replay. I will still get back and answer them in the comments field. If you're in the chat, certainly ask questions in the chat, share your experiences. And hi from Sweden. Awesome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So this video is for you if you have ever felt like you're not living up to who you truly are, that you're hiding yourself a little bit, that you find that you hold yourself back from being who you are, and not just from a social perspective, but just from a life perspective as well, that you're not really allowing yourself to have the life you really want to have, that there's aspects of you that have been conditioned to hold you back. And there's probably beliefs there as well that are also holding you back. And this is the place where Hekate meets you. She meets you at this crossroads between your realization of, I'm holding myself back here and I don't want to do that anymore, but I don't really know how to move forward from this, because the version of me that I know now is the version of me that I've always been, and it's the only version I've known. So it's hard to step into a different version of yourself, even if you can imagine it, even if you can start to use your imagination to put yourself into scenarios and situations that you would like to be in, or the lifestyle you'd like to be living, or who you'd like to be living as. It still feels a little foreign at first. It's a little bit like you're trying to fake it till you make it type of thing. And that's not what this is about at all. Shifting into this version of you, your true self, isn't about faking it till you make it, because you're not actually faking it. What you're doing is you're shifting your concept of your identity. So it's a concept to who you've felt yourself to be probably for your whole life, to a new version of how you feel yourself to be. And this is a transformation totally of who you are. And Hekate is a wonderful deity to work with to help you with this. Hello, Dwight. Merry meet. So Hekate teaches us something very, very powerful here. She teaches us about letting go, about letting go of the old ways, letting go of the old identity, and also letting go of expectations of what we're even going to be becoming and experiencing as well. So there's an element of surrender to this. And it's not that you're surrendering it and becoming helpless, it's that you're letting it go. When you do a spell and you let the spell go, so you burn your petition and you see the smoke rising up out of your cauldron, that's a letting go. It's you've let your petition go out to the universe. You've let your spell go out there. You've let the magic go. You've released it. And now you have to let it go. You can't do any more with it. You've sent it off and it's now in the cosmic mail, so to speak. It's like that even with shifting your concept of yourself to a better concept of yourself, one that's more healthy and one that really is doing justice to who you truly are deep down inside. Your true self, your higher self, the version of you that you really came here to experience versus the version of you that you may have come here to experience to some extent, but now it's time to grow out of it and become who you truly are. So it's not about losing yourself. And Hecate does make that quite clear that letting go isn't about losing yourself. It's not about letting go of the inner child. It's not about letting go of a part of you that you feel still very close to, that is still feeling like it's a part of you. It is simply about surrendering to the change. Sometimes when we go through change in our personalities and we start to shift more into the version of ourselves that we want, there's a part of us that feels guilty about doing that. Like we have to hold on to the old version. And often that version feels like a child, and it feels like you're somehow letting the child go. And that can bring up a lot of guilt and cause us to hold on to parts of ourselves. But when we're letting go, we're not just sending those parts of ourselves off. We can send them off with love. We can send them off with really positive energy and send them off to be transformed back into the universe, back to the goddess. And so we're releasing these old identities that no longer serve us. And yes, they did serve us. And yes, they did keep us safe, particularly when we were younger, but they're not needed anymore. They're not part of the journey moving forward anymore. And whilst you can transform a lot of these identities into stronger versions of themselves that do serve you, sometimes you have to let go of that attachment to an old concept of yourself. And it's really just a concept of yourself. It's not a physical thing, it's totally conceptual. And that can be really hard to let go of. But Hecate can help you with that. And we're going to explore how releasing these old identities with, Hecate's help, and how you can also use tarot as well to see or mirror who you're becoming, because the tarot will often tell you what your potential is and what you need to do. And sometimes that can be very overwhelming and very scary as well, because you might think, well, how on earth do I step into that energy? So we're going to talk about that today as well. So if you're still stuck in old patterns, if you're unsure of your next step, or you're just simply wanting to shed what no longer fits you, then we're going to talk about that in this live stream. Now, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Sandra. I'm the author of Crafting Your Wiccan Path, and I've been a witch for over 35 years now. I've been working with Hecate quite a lot since 2018, particularly on the shadow work and the identity shifting work. And I also help other witches who are struggling to start a practice or deepen their practice, or just shift these blocks that are in their way of truly living their best life and truly being who they are. And I help people through this YouTube channel, and I also do one-on-one coaching and mentoring with people. And I also have a number of courses on my website too that you can do, whether that's to learn Wicca and Witchcraft or whether that's to do identity shifting with Hecate. There's a lot of different things there that you can do through the Witch School. And I'm going to talk about what's coming up in November as well for the Journey with Hecate course too today. Hi, James. How are you? Now, first off, if you do want to work with Hecate and you just want to dip your toes in and just see what it's like to work with Hecate in this way, so for shadow work and for identity shifting, I do have a free video called Awaken Your Power with Hecate. It's really good for beginners and to introduce you to the concept of shifting your identity. And you can also get to experience working with her as well, because there's 4 steps to working with her on discovering who you truly are in that video. So that's Awaken Your Power with Hecate. There's a link in the description field below the video if you're watching the replay. And you can also find it on my website, mysterywitchschool.com, under the freebies tab. And I will also put it in the chat as well, so that it's there for everybody. Okay. And where is it? Hecate is one of my favorite deities to work with. I have worked with other deities for a very, very long period of time. And when I first came to work with Hecate, it was a little bit of a shock because I was never expecting to work with her I always thought my matron deity was the deity I would always be working with, but Hecate came along anyway and invited me to work with her, so I thought, "Well, I'll bite the bullet and work with her." And she does that for a lot of people. She will sometimes just show up and invite you to do the work, and, it's up to you whether you take the invitation. You can certainly do this kind of work without Hecate, or you can do it with Hecate, and she does make it easier to do. So we'll start off by talking a little bit about the concept of identity shifting first. James, just put your book in my basket. Awesome. Thanks, James. Hope you enjoy it. The concept of identity shifting is not something that's unusual in Magick. It probably wasn't called that in the past, but the modern terminology, it's called identity shifting. And what it is us consciously changing the way we experience ourselves at a very deep level. And I say experience ourselves because it really is about the experience of self and the experience of being the version of ourselves we want to be. Now, at first, when you first start doing this, you will see yourself first. So your version of you is going to feel a little bit separate to who you are. And you start by observing this new version of yourself as if you are watching a movie and you're watching somebody else. But eventually, the whole point of the exercise is to actually step into experiencing that version of yourself more and more and more and more. It involves your self concept, it involves your beliefs about yourself and the world around you, and your energetic alignment so that your outer reality naturally changes to match the changes within your new inner state or experience. And that really does happen. When you change the way you experience yourself and the world changes to accommodate that. And that's what magic is. Essentially, that is magic, where things change to accommodate your inner state and how you're experiencing yourself to be. So it's not pretending to be somebody else. It's not like an alter ego that a lot of people do use in professional life, where you're just you 1 minute and then you have to step out on stage and be a star performer and you suddenly become your alter ego. This is about you being who you are all the time. So you're not taking on an identity that you're wearing as a mask in order maybe to feel confident. It actually becomes who you are. So in order to do that, you have to transform your old relationship with yourself to a new relationship with yourself. And that means releasing old concepts of yourself, old beliefs about yourself that have been formed over the very, very early years of your life from fear, from conditioning, from limitation, from energetic assumptions, from needing to defend yourself, from traumas, and all sorts of things like that. And stepping into yourself now as an adult, embodying the version of you that actually aligns with your inner truth and your true desires. Like, not just the ego, I'm not talking about ego desires. I'm talking about your true heart desires, the things that really light you up, the things that make you feel connected, the things that you can just lose yourself in because it's so much a part of who you are, and allowing yourself to have that kind of life. And looking at the journey of identity shifting as being a journey. It's not just about getting to an end result. It's about enjoying the journey and the exploration and what you learn about yourself and the world and magic as you're doing this transition. So, from a spiritual and magical perspective, it's an inner alchemy. It's transforming the energy and your consciousness to vibrate at a frequency, a magical frequency of the life that you're actually creating. So as you're changing yourself, you're creating your life at the same time, and things start to change at the same time. But the focus is on really stepping into who you want to feel yourself to be rather than what's going on in the outside world. With Magick, we focus a lot on trying to change things in the outside world, like bring more money, bring a better job, bring in love, healing, all of those sorts of things. Identity shifting is about the inner change, and the inner change brings the outer change automatically because you can't have what you're not aligned to, and you can't experience who you're not resonating as. So it is a form of magic. It's probably a much more aligned with more of a high magic concept. So rather than trying to change circumstances, it's really about the inner transformation or the know thyself or the great work that we talk about in magic. So you can look at tarot as an example for anybody who's into tarot or wants to go into tarot, that identity shifting is a little bit like the meaning of the death card here. And with the death card, it's like you're shedding your skin. You're transforming from one state to another state of being. And that's truly what the death card means in the tarot. It's about transformation. It's about change. And it's a change you can't go back from. It's a permanent change. And we often look at the death card, particularly because it's given such a rap in, Hollywood and movies and things. It's not always talking about physical death. In fact, it comes up very rarely as physical death. It is really about inner transformation and change. So it's a card where you can look at that and welcome what it's actually standing for, particularly when you're doing identity shifting work with Hekate, and you may be using the tarot to help you as well. So the death card is really the symbol of the transformational process of identity shifting and what to expect from it, letting go, shedding skin. And through ritual, through shadow work with Hecate, through guided meditations, through awareness, you become then your goal really then is to become the magician of your own psyche and of your life. This is truly the path to becoming the magician or the witch. It's mastering yourself, mastering your the ego self, in that you can see when the ego is nudging you, it's saying, oh no, it's not safe to change, or we have to do this to make it safe. But actually being able to step into your higher self, your true self, and navigate your way through this terrain without succumbing often to the fears and the will of the lower self, which is the ego self, and becoming the magician, which is really what the magician is about. It's mastery of self as much as it is mastery of the world or the outside world. Hello, David from New York. Awesome. James, I thought about getting Lilith's sigil tattooed on my arm and also not sure if that is wise. Thoughts? Remember, tattoos are pretty much permanent things. Yes, you can get them removed, but if you're going to get a tattoo, make sure it's something you're going to want for the rest of your life. And another problem with tattoos is as your skin ages and sags, the tattoo starts to lose its definition as well. So think about the aging body and the tattoo at the same time. So that would be, some thoughts. Okay. So this is what you're wanting to step into, the magician of your own life. Now, from a psychological perspective, identity, our concept of ourselves, is made up of beliefs, habits that come from those beliefs, and just habits that happen because we've trained ourselves to work this way, the emotions that go with those beliefs and thoughts, and the perception, how we perceive things. And what identity shifting means is that you're recognizing that you don't have to be the person who believes that you have to struggle and struggle and struggle. You don't have to be the person that has bad relationships. You don't have to be the person that always seems to be unlucky in love or money. You don't have to be the person that's always suffering in some particular way. You can actually jump into a version of you, another quantum realm, and be the version of you who does have successful relationships, who does have more abundance in their life, who is doing the things you want to do. Now, you might not jump into that version of yourself immediately. This is a process, but it's the joy of the process and the joy of just experiencing what it's like to change and to see the incremental changes along the way. You know, you can become somebody who acts and thinks and chooses from a place of confidence, from a place of courage, from a place of feeling like you have all of the resources you could ever need, that the universe is looking after you, that your world is always taking care of you. And these things may sound very new agey and very sort of fluffy bunny, but if you do have the knowledge and the real belief that your world is taking care of you, which is a reality transurfing type of concept, and you really feel into that every day, you start to see how your world is taking care of you. But it's something you've got to train yourself, your subconscious mind, to take on and believe. So this is about subconscious training. You consciously create an awareness of the version of yourself that you want to be. You consciously create the version of seeing yourself and stepping into yourself, but you're communicating to the subconscious mind that this is who you really want to be. So it's about 5% conscious and 95% subconscious that you're working with in this kind of process. Okay. I already have lots of tattoos. Okay. Wandering permanently attaching her sigil might cause unwanted spiritual consequences. Look, it doesn't necessarily have to. It does, just because you've got that physical attachment there, does the physical sigils there doesn't necessarily mean there has to be an attachment. But um, I probably wouldn't personally do anything like that myself with the deities, because you can change who you work with, and you may decide not to work with Lilith, or you may not need to work with Lilith at a certain point in your life, and then you're kind of left with it. So yeah, just remember it's permanent. So, and what is the reason you want it on your body in the first place? Like, what's the reason for wanting it, to make it something that's quite permanent rather than something that you can take off, like, some kind of medallion or something. I got the 2 books on Kindle with Kindle Unlimited. Awesome. I often do have those thoughts of always forever struggling with everything. It's so hard to switch my mind to think things can be differently without physical proof. Absolutely. And this is the tough stuff, is ignoring what's going on in the outside world and not getting pulled in by it, and staying in imagining that you are having the life you want to have. And this is very, very difficult to do. It's not easy to do. And even our old programming will jump in and say, this is rubbish, this isn't going to work, this isn't working, when is it going to happen? It's not happening yet. And all of those sorts of things come into this as well. So it's not an easy ride through this, because the old negativity will often come in. You can have one day with this work where you are feeling this is all possible, and you start to see something, you're going, yeah, this is actually possible. I can feel into this version of myself, and you're feeling really good, and you're up and everything. And then maybe in the afternoon or the next day, pop, boom, you're back down again. And you've got to try really hard to pull yourself back up again into that version of you, and you have to do a lot of inner work, use a lot of resources and things to put you back into stepping back to that version of you that you really want to be. So it's a case of in and out, 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 and a self-awareness, so that you are aware of yourself enough to know when you have, but bound back down again into the old version of you that might be thinking very negatively, might be going back to the concept of always struggling, and just going, okay, I've just dropped back into that again. Okay, how do I pull myself into going back into my imagination and imagining that I am living that life. What would I be doing? Or what would this future version of me, the one that's not struggling, what would she do in this situation? Or what would he do in this situation? What would that version of me do? How would they do something differently? Because that version of you is thinking differently too about things. So how would they react to a situation? And then, think about that as you're building a connection with this version of you. Thank you, Toby Cyrus, for the $20 super chat. Thank you so much. Very, very helpful. Your book is on my Christmas list. Awesome. Merry Christmas. Okay, and Christmas is starting to happen too. Straight after Halloween, you start to see all the Christmas decorations come out. Okay, so in practice, so if you're talking about this from a practical perspective, you're releasing it can look like this. So, for example, you might be somebody who's overly responsible or overly structured in your life. You may actually be, from a tarot perspective, archetypally an emperor type of personality, but a little bit too much in the structure and the overdoing things, and rigid in that kind of more negative sense of the emperor energy being overemphasized. Uh, and the new identity may be one that still maintains that ability to have structure and to have order, which is a positive thing, but allowing more freedom and more trust in your life, for example. And that could be something that your new identity is sort of trying to balance the emperor energy with having a little bit more of a freedom to them and being a little bit more flexible. You might this is a really popular one in the spiritual communities, in the witchcraft communities, New Age to some degree, um, definitely with people who follow Eastern philosophy, is that scarcity-based thinking of the Five of Pentacles. And looking at that being a concept that you have about life, maybe it's a concept that to be spiritual, you shouldn't want money or you shouldn't want abundance in your life, not understanding that money is energy, that everything from a magical perspective is energy. And if you want something, you're not letting anybody else down and you're not taking it from anybody else by having it because you live in an energetic universe. You're stepping into the magical realm. You're stepping out of this 3D limited view of the world and stepping into a magical, energetic way of thinking and being. And when you live in the magical world, the true magical world, or as in the more modern concept, the quantum thinking, quantum world, then everything is abundant. You're not taking from somebody else in order to have. And so letting go of scarcity thinking, for example, may be something that you have to work on when you're shifting identities because you want to embody the mindset and the experience of a flow of resourcefulness. You might want to go from this limitation to a sense that your resources flow, like the Eight of Wands. They're coming in and they flow. So thank you very much, Not Queen, for the $10 super chat. Thank you so much. It's very greatly appreciated. And James says, I appreciate that and I'll meditate on it. Already have lots of deities, but not frivolously. Yeah. And you will change deities. You'll be working with Lilith for a while, maybe, a long time. And then maybe you're done with the work with Lilith or Lilith's done with working with you. And so, you move on to the next mentor or next deity that you're working with. And it's not there's no hard feelings or anything between you and the deity you've been working with. It's just that you're not working with each other at that time. It's not the time. You've done what you needed to do, and you're both moving on somewhere else. And you may come back together again and work again. Okay. Now, using tarot in your identity shifting is really useful to you, because the tarot can show you where you're holding on to things and what you're holding on to. So if you're doing shadow work or identity shifting work and you're asking the tarot to help you with your blockages, what's stopping me from really being able to feel into this version of me, then you may find that, for example, this card might come up for you. So it's telling you, you've still got a scarcity mentality, or you're still thinking about money in a way that's not helping you, or resources, even just physical resources in general that aren't helping you. Maybe you're struggling to find a nice place to live or something, and you may have limitations about that too. You may, deep down inside, there may be a belief you don't deserve to live somewhere nice, or you're not worthy of living somewhere nice. And so you find that you tend to end up in places that aren't very nice because you've got a belief going on that I'm not worthy of anything better than this. This is all I'm worthy of. And that's something that you can change. You don't have to have that belief anymore. You can be worthy of living wherever you want to live, and you're not harming anybody by doing that either. Okay. So I think what I'll do is I'll talk about this now, since we're talking about tarot. So for the rest of November, right up to November 30, I'm offering my identity shifting work with Hekate course called A Journey with Hekate. I'm offering that course with the Confident Tarot Reader, which is my tarot reading course, and I'm offering that free with A Journey with Hekate. So if you haven't taken A Journey with Hekate yet and you've been thinking about it, and you like to work with the tarot and you want to learn how to read tarot, then now is a good time to do that, because I use tarot a lot with working with Hekate. She tends to speak a lot to people through tarot, and a lot of people who say that's how they communicate with Hekate is through tarot. And the tarot can just show you so much about your journey with shadow work and your journey with identity shifting, that if you learn how to read it well using your intuition as well as the knowledge of the cards, which is what I teach in the Confident Tarot Reader, then you can combine that with the work that you're doing with Hekate in A Journey with Hekate. Now, A Journey with Hekate course is an identity shifting course working with Hekate. So you do rituals with Hekate, you do spells. Generally, the spells are opening the road spells, banishing spells, bringing into your connection who you truly are more, and also doing the actual work of shifting into who you truly are. That course also has a mini tarot shadow work course component in there as well. So you do use the tarot a little bit in that course. But the Confident Tarot Reader course is a standalone tarot reading course that actually teaches you how to actually interpret the cards well, so that you can combine that with your shadow work. So that's what's happening this month. The Journey with Hekate with the Confident Tarot Reader is on offer until the 30th of November. So do take advantage of that if you're ready to do the work with Hekate. And I'll just pop the link to A Journey with Hekate in the chat. It's also in the description field below the video too, if you are watching the replay. Now, Hecate's role in this is the goddess of the crossroads and transformation. She's the one who guides you through this, and she's not doing it for you. She's just helping. She's helping you connect to who you are. She's giving you, I guess, a helping hand, and also her presence, because often when you're doing this kind of work, particularly if you're doing it on your own, it can be sometimes just too daunting and too much. If we actually have the aid of guides like Hekate, for example, it makes the process so much easier, and you know that you're not alone in the process. And she really does help you. If you're saying to Hekate, I'm stuck here, I sense that there's something keeping me stuck. I don't know what it is. What is it? She will show it to you in some way, shape, or form. It might be an idea. You might read something in a book that stimulates it. You may find a video on YouTube that shows it to you, but she will reveal to you what's keeping you stuck. And it's usually a belief. It's a concept that you have of yourself and the world around you, or the way that you're perceiving something. and she'll show you that. And then it's a matter of changing that programming in the subconscious mind. In a journey with Hecate, I give you all the tools you need to change those programs, particularly my shamanic tapping um, technique that I use that changes beliefs, so that you're working with the nervous system, you're working with your energetic system, and communicating to your subconscious mind the change you're wanting to see. So I use tapping in that course, and I also use hypnotherapy through the guided meditations as well. Because when you calm down and you're relaxed and you're in a guided meditation, your brain's now in an alpha wave state. It may even go into theta when you're in a guided meditation. That's when you can communicate with your subconscious mind. That's when you can start changing things. So Hecate is going to help you see what needs to be released, and also what needs to be born, what needs to come through. You're going to see more of who you are, more of your potential. Potential you didn't even know you had is going to come through. And you may even be shocked at the version of you that you start to see when you're doing this kind of work. You might think, I could never be that person. Yet that is who you are and who you can become as you unravel and get rid of all of the things that are in your way. So you might have a little bit of an idea of who you truly are and who you haven't been allowing yourself to be. But as you do this work with Hecate, you start to see more and more of that version of you that you just didn't know was part of who you were, or even part of your potential. But it starts to become more and more obvious, and the more work you do, the more you step into that version, and it becomes easier to believe and easier to step into those positive personality traits, really, that you're wanting to get you where you want to go in the world. Now, Hecate also stands at the threshold between the old and the new. So she's in that liminal space. And as she steps into that threshold, as she's there, she's offering you with her torches illumination, showing you things you didn't see before. She also offers you protection with this too. And as you step more into who you are, more empowerment as well, because it's going to bring a more sense of empowerment with who you feel you are, so that you're no longer concerned about what other people say about you. You're not concerned what other people, if they're trying to manipulate you. It's just something that it's like water off a duck's back. You just walk away from it, or you laugh it off, or if you have to do something, you do something. But it doesn't make you uh, ruminate over it for hours and hours and hours and hours after it happens. You really have more confidence in who you are. Now, that confidence, when you're first doing this sort of work, is going to go in and out. You're going to oscillate between self-confidence and self-doubt consistently. Like I said before, you've got the great day, everything's perfect, everything's aligned, and then the next day it's ba-bow. And you've got to try and pull yourself off and out of it. It is how it is. But, it is about consciously aligning with who you believe you are and who you truly are meant to be. And in some ways, it is like die before you die. There's this concept in the Fourth Way movement of Gurdjieff, if anyone's familiar with Gurdjieff or the Fourth Way, of dying before you die. And it's a Sufi concept as well, die before you die. And what that basically means is you die to the old self while you're living this life. And that dying is a subconscious transformation from who you were to who you truly are. And it's about letting go of the old self, not clinging to it, not clinging out of fear or loyalty to the past. Often we feel there's a loyalty to being who we were, or a loyalty even to a parent or a caregiver. And that if we let go of that identity of who we are and we step into who we truly are, that we're somehow betraying that old version of ourselves, or an old aspect of ourselves, or a fragment of ourselves, or a parent or caregiver, or somebody significant from childhood. And that's something to be aware of. Is that loyalty holding you back? and the guilt around that holding you back, and how is that serving you? How is that good for you now? It might have helped in the past for sure, but now it's not going to help you anymore, and you may need to grieve it and send it off with love and let it go to where it needs to go next, so that you're not holding on to this aspect of yourself or connection to another person that's actually going to stop you from fully stepping into who you truly are. I've had that experience with myself, and I've also had clients, some of my one-on-one clients that have had that real problem too, and it can take a long time to even find out you've got that problem. And, when you do have to grieve it and you have to let it go, but you have to let it go in a way that, is positive. It's giving gratitude for how it helped you in the past, but you don't need it anymore, so you have to let it go, and you have to let it go with love. So it's not like Hecate's taking your old self away. She's just handing you the torch and the keys to see things clearly, to bless them, to walk forward and open the door with the key to the new version of yourself, which isn't actually new at all. It is actually who you were truly underneath it all. The version of you that was holding yourself back, that you may felt loyal to, is actually the fake version. It's not actually the real version of you. So let's have a little bit of a look of how you can use tarot with this as well. So you can use tarot as a way of looking at the different identities that you are releasing, the versions of yourself. So for example, I've just created here a mini spread that you could use. It's just got 4 cards, and I'll just give you a demonstration of a reading that I did and how the reading fits in with these 4 points. So you would ask the tarot the question of, what do I need to release to become my true self? That's a pretty standard question that you'd ask in this kind of work. You know, what do I need to release to become my true self? It could be something you do on a weekly basis. It could be something that you do on a daily basis if you're doing really intensive work. And the first card, and I don't have the cards in front of me, I don't think, because I did this spell when I was preparing the live. But the first card was actually the Emperor card that I pulled, and I asked this question for myself. So the first card was the Emperor card, and the Emperor is representing who I've been in this case. So it's representing the masculine side. It's representing the structural side, the control, the identity that I'd built maybe around rules and around of expectations, trying to have it all together. It could also be suggesting that it's a background that I've come from. So an environment that was more very controlled environment, maybe upbringing environment, the cultural environment of structure, and having to have it all together, or believing that I have to have it all together. And it's the self basically that's worked hard, created this stability, but that can feel rigid and can feel limiting if you are that stuck in the rigidity and stuck in structure. So who I've been can be acknowledged, it can be appreciated, and give gratitude to that version of self and honor that version of self. But also recognizing that maybe it's a case now of moving away from being so structured, and allowing for a little bit more of release, maybe, depending on what other cards come up for me. So number 2 is what I'm releasing. So number 2 card is what you're releasing, okay, if you're doing it for yourself. And in the reading that I did, what was being released was the Death card. So this is the ultimate card of transformation. Major Arcana card for the first one, Major Arcana card for the second one. Not a literal death, obviously, but it's a symbolic meaning of endings. And in the case of a reading where you're dealing with identity shifting, it's the ending of old identities and all of the habits, all of the fears, and all of the energetic assumptions that go with it. And working with Hecate then to release that old version of self consciously, knowing that letting go can create a space for something new and aligned. So it's about really letting go of some of that structure and some of that control or concept of that having to be the way of doing things. Number three, the card number three is who am I becoming? So this is where you're looking at some archetypal influence from the tarot or some advice from the tarot. So the interesting thing about this reading was that the 5 of Pentacles came up. Now this is where you're seeing the tarot highlighting particular things. So the 5 of Pentacles often shows up where you're feeling left out, you're feeling abandoned, you're feeling poor and lacking. It may even be a symbol sometimes of bad health. But when you're looking at it in this particular position of identity shifting, it's actually really highlighting the limitations, the fears, the doubts, and the old beliefs that make us cling to who we are. Um, so when it comes to releasing, oh yeah, becoming. I think I might have missed one. No, no, that's right. So it's about becoming somebody who rises out of the ashes. It's somebody coming out of that mentality of limitation and destitution and stepping out of the cold, seeing how we are supported, how the old self is resisting leaving, acknowledging all of the pain and letting that go. So it's becoming somebody who's able to step out of that 5 of Pentacles. I just had the card before, but I don't know where it went. It's about stepping up out of that mentality. So it's showing that you're becoming somebody who's looking to the stained glass window, because in that particular version of the tarot, and I'll just find it here, with the Waite Smith deck, the people are looking down. So they're looking at the destitution. What they're not seeing is what's up here. So this card has always been a card of hope. It's a card of showing you that if you look to spirit, if you look to the sacred and you look to who you truly are, your higher being, your higher self, you can actually totally transform the situation down here. And so the card is actually saying that what you're becoming is going from a version of being in this state of lack to stepping more into connecting with spirit and knowing that you do have the ability to be able to create what you want to create. Now, card number 4 means how Hecate guides me through the transition. So this is letting you know how Hecate is guiding you. And in this particular reading came up with the 8 of Wands, which is the, basically all systems go card. And that card's all about speed, it's about flow, it's about moving forward. And once you release the old identities, once you get rid of that old poverty mentality, Hecate will help with then the speed of it. She's going to show you the new self and how that new self is emerging. She's going to help you with that, or help me with that, because it was my reading. That she's going to help with that speed and that transition. Because sometimes when you go straight into something new, it can be overwhelming. And it's good to have an ally like Hecate there to help you through even the positive changes. So it's showing the new self as emerging quickly. It's emerging in a way that could be potentially very aligned and very ready to take inspired action. So it's that new and Hecate guiding quite speedily through that. So when you ask her to help, she helps you transform quite quickly. So that's just an example of how you can use the tarot in your reading. Hi, Melissa, Alessandra. All better late than never. I'll have to rewatch. Yes. We're almost finished anyway, so you'll be able to rewatch it soon. We'll try to keep this to just an hour. So other ways that you can work with Hecate is then to add a little bit of ritual to your work, a little bit of reflection, a little bit of invitation. So if you close your eyes, just for a moment, and just imagine yourself standing at the crossroads. There's torches flickering. You look behind you, and it's the path where you've been. But ahead is the path of who you're becoming, or who you might have an understanding of what you want to become, or who you want to become, I should say. And just imagine that you're thanking your old self. You're releasing that old self gently, thanking where you've been, how the old version of yourself has helped you in the past. It's been with you through thick and thin. And then gently step forward into the light of the crossroads. Just imagine that there's this sense of being reborn at this crossroads, that you're stepping into more confidence. You're stepping a little bit more into the feeling of what it would feel like to be doing the things you really want to do and be being the person you really want to be. And see Hekate there, guiding you. You're being guided, you're being seen, you're being empowered. And just notice how you feel yourself becoming, what it feels like to just step into that version of you. More confident, more intuitive, maybe more at home in your magic. There may even be an experience that you just weren't aware of at all, a bit of a shock of this version of you. And just feel into that and enjoy the feeling. If you want to let me know in the comments or in the chat what the difference is that you're feeling. Now, there may be voices like your tail enders, or their negative voice going, "You could never be this person," or "I don't know how to do this," or "It's impossible, I could never be this. Am I just wishful thinking?" All of those things may come up for you when you're doing this kind of work. But just allow yourself just to have a moment of feeling what it feels like to step into this version of you, to step into the crossroads with Hecate there and go, "Okay, I'm just for a moment going to imagine that I'm doing what I would be doing if I was this confident version of me, if I was this version of who I truly am." Maybe you're feeling more magically powerful, like all of the magic that you do is really powerful and it works every time. What does that feel like? What does it feel like to feel connected to your purpose? What are you feeling? What are you experiencing? You might not necessarily be doing anything in this visualization. You're just experiencing what it feels like to be the person who can do those things. You may be experiencing what it's like to have a particular occupation that you want to have, or a career that you want to have. What does it feel like to be doing that thing, to be the person who's doing that thing? What does it feel like to be the person that has maybe even the physical things you might want to have? And maybe you want to go somewhere. There's a particular place in the world you'd like to visit and experience, and you haven't had the chance to do that yet. What does it feel like to be walking down that street? Maybe you want to go to Paris or somewhere, and just imagine what it's like walking down the streets of Paris as this version of you. What does it feel like? So this is the kind of thing that you want to be doing. There's an example with Neville Goddard with his teacher. I can't remember the name of his teacher, but Neville went to his teacher. He wanted to go to Barbados and didn't know how he was going to be able to get to Barbados. And so his teacher said to him, "You're already in Barbados." Now, he wasn't physically in Barbados, but what the teacher was telling him was, even though physically you may not be in Barbados, you might be in New York or wherever he was. As you walk through the streets of New York, as you walk through your home, your flat, your unit, your apartment, as you're doing the things you're doing throughout your day, in your imagination, you're in Barbados. You're not in New York. So that's the kind of thing that we're talking about when it comes to magic. So when you're doing magic for something, you are putting yourself in the place you want to be as if you're already in it. And when it comes to identity shifting, you're becoming the person who already is doing those things and being the person who's living that reality. So you're being the person who's walking down the streets of Paris. You're being the person who is living where you'd like to live ideally. You're imagining that you are already there. And we can do this for a short amount of time, often before we just forget about it and we end up back in the so-called real world again. But all you have to do is remember when you've jumped out of that imagination and just go back into it again. So it's a case of just going into it when you remember to go into it and not beating yourself up when you go out of it. Because it is something that you've got to do constantly, and we will keep getting pulled back into reality uh, over and over and over and over again because that's how life works. But the more you get used to doing this kind of work, the more you get used to living in your imagination, as if it's true and real from a feeling perspective, the more it starts to change. So it may feel a little bit like a child doing make believe, where we probably grew up as children. I used to imagine that I was some in a magical land and working with the magical animals and things when I was a child, and I would create that imagination as part of my play. It's a bit like that, except you're going beyond the imagination to really feeling and experiencing it as if it's truly happening and with the desire for it to happen. And that's where the difference is. So it's not wishful thinking and it's not playing make believe like you did as a kid. It is actually being that version of you as often as you can be that version of you. Okay, the old version of me went to Paris and almost went to the Caribbean. Awesome. Okay. So yes, this type of work is exactly where we go with a journey with Hecate. So exploring the transformation through the ritual, through devotion, through meditation, and or guided meditations. So yes, if you do want to strengthen your connection with Hecate, if you really want to step into who you are, a journey with Hecate, and you get the Confident Tarot Reader course along with that up until the 30th of November. So just a question to leave you with. What old identity are you ready to release under Hecate's torchlight? Okay. Okay, thank you, Art for Joy. Thank you too. Thank you for coming along. Okay, everybody. So, yes, thank you very much. I'll see you again next week. We're still sticking on the theme of working with Hecate for the rest of this month. The reason I'm doing this is because it's 12 months since I released the Journey with Hecate course. So, I just wanted to celebrate that by offering the bonus tarot course and also by dedicating the rest of the month to basically Hecate and working with Hecate. So if you love Hecate and you love this kind of inner work, then yes, the rest of the month is full of it. Okay, so thank you, everybody. Blessed be. And we'll see you again next week.